We're husband and wife and business partners who aren't afraid to live life on the edge.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Juliana.
From success and wellness to candid conversations on travel, food, and culture, we're here for it all.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Welcome to On the Edge with Ryan and Juliana. I'm Juliana.
And I'm Ryan.
Yes, and we're so excited to be here. So we should probably, begin letting people know a little bit about us, who we are, why we're doing this, and all that fun kind of behind-the-scenes information.
Yeah, a fun little history lesson.
Yeah. So we're married.
Yeah.
Going on like 14 years, I think.
Is it that long? 14?
I think, unless it's 15. No, it's 14, because last year I said it was lucky 13. So going on 14 years of marriage, wedded bliss.
What a wild ride it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magical. Nothing short of it. But before we were married, we actually were playing in a band together. I like to say I'm an ex-wannabe pop star. And so I was writing songs and recording with my brother, Alex. And then Ryan joined us, and they were my band, essentially. We were going all over New York City. We played at the Bitter End, and I forgot what the other big name places at the time were, like the Bleecker. It was on Bleecker Street, but it was a lot of fun. So we really bonded playing music together. And then, of course, you fast forward a little bit. Once I tricked Ryan into marrying me, then we went into the real estate world.
You tricked Ryan into marrying me.
I was just kidding.
Really? No, what? I mean, if we're going to do this, expose here, why don't you tell people the truth? What did you do? What did you do?
No.
With your little spells and your potions?
So, I didn't trick him into marrying me.
Tell everyone how you're a witch.
A good witch. I'm a good witch, if anything. But when we met, I was still in college. I was home in Rhode Island for the summer. I went to school in New York City, but was home, on break, and went out at the trusty Coast Guard house where they sell Narragansett beer, by the way. And Ryan and I met. So we dated a bit, and then I went back to school. And mind you, we dated for a few months with me at school, like even doing the whole back and forth thing.
That's how you remember it. That's fine.
That's how I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was beautiful. I loved you so much, and you loved me too. But then I went to school, and you ghosted before ghosting was like even a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a trendsetter.
Yeah, you really are.
It's fine.
Yeah. So, I said we'd consecutively talked. And again, so I'm kind of, the timeline's confusing, but we had dated when we met. And then, I went back to school, all that good stuff. And then we had dated over like my whole winter break. So we'd consecutively talked for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I went back, I was back and forth visiting, coming home to Rhode Island, hanging out with Ryan. And one day I went back and nothing, hung out. We had a great time. It was business as usual. And then my phone just stopped ringing. And I wasn't about to call you. I wasn't going to call you. I wasn't going to text you. I was, kind of seeing like, Jesus, this is taking a bit. Now it's been a week. Weird. Now it's been 2 weeks. Okay. Googling him to make sure he wasn't in some horrible accident. Like worst case scenario. And, I was like 22, whatever it was. My friends and I going through all the possible scenarios of where did Ryan Wilson go. And one day, it was like 3 weeks now, my phone rings. And I'm like, holy shit, it's Ryan Wilson. What do I do? So I answered the phone. I remember being kind of like, hello? And you saying, hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm with Jay. So you didn't just call me to proclaim your love or explain what happened or whatever it was, but you tried to use someone else being there as like a way so you didn't get yelled at or something. Anyway, then we didn't date for a year, but I did read somewhere that if you put a picture of the person you love under your pillowcase, they will come back to you. So little old me living in Brooklyn Heights, New York, what do you think I did? Had a nice picture printed at CVS on Montague Street or whatever, Henry Street, and put your picture there. And now fast forward 15 or whatever years it is, or no, 16, 17 years later, here we are.
Yeah. Well, you can call that magic or whatever. I just view that as like your early signs of your separation anxiety. But
Hey, joke's on
it
you.
were signs.
Joke's
Yeah.
on you, buddy. It worked.
Yeah, well, maybe the joke's on you. Maybe my theme worked. I don't know. What do you know?
That's true. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. But we really should get back into that because I could go clearly.
Yeah, I
And
don't
I'm not
know.
hung
I
up
mean,
on
I'm
this.
going to go back to this because I let you just go on and you said your piece and everything, but there's a lot of history there. Like, I'm not a fucking monster.
No, I didn't say you were.
You know, you can made me see them like that. I'm not that bad, guys.
I
I'm not
did
that bad.
try a lot.
Well, you know, I didn't know that. And
Sad.
you know, there's a history there of why I acted a certain way that I don't, you know, we can go into again, but there was ex-girlfriends, I had just gotten out of a different relationship where I sort of had this George Costanza moment of, you know, when he was in Seinfeld, when George Costanza is walking up the stairs after he got engaged and he immediately has all these thoughts of what the hell am I doing and everything. And I just got out of a relationship where that was me,
Right.
where I moved in with a girl and it was like the what the hell am I doing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Finally got out of that and met you like the same week. So I went from that horror situation to a different horror situation.
No, not me.
Yeah, I just completely went from one fucking spider web to the next, and then, you know, just wiggled my way out of that
Mm-hmm.
web
Mm-hmm.
and then just kind of chilled for a little bit. But
Yeah.
no, everything worked out well. Everything
All worked
fine.
out well. He needed his time to like whatever he did, find himself or call it what you want.
Look, no one's going to be writing a screenplay over what I went
What your
through.
year looked
It's
like.
not that glamorous.
Ryan had his
But
eat, pray, love era.
yeah,
Went
right.
to
Well,
Bali.
no, there was a name for it. What did we call it?
Summer of Ryan.
My Summer of Ryan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Sounds terrible. I'm glad I wasn't there for that. However,
It wasn't that bad.
fast forward, again, so a year after he stops calling me, he calls me again, and he's been calling me ever since. So it all worked out. We just needed a little time.
Yeah, really. Like a year later, we were shopping for homes to buy together.
Yeah, year and a half
Yeah.
after you ghosted me.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's because I put your picture under my pillow.
yeah.
So
In which?
whatever, it worked. Magic. Anyway, so that was great. So yeah, then after all that, so then we were dating. All was very merry. And I remember Ryan one day came home from work. We didn't work together yet. And he was like, I want to get into the stock market. Again, we're young. We're like 23 years old at the time. So I mentioned this to my mom. I was like, yeah, Ryan wants to get into stocks. And she said, why don't you guys just get into real estate and revive Edge Realty, which is the company my parents started when I was a kid. So that's what we did. It wasn't immediate. So actually, wait,
That is a
wait,
gross.
I skipped.
That is a gross oversimplification of that process.
Okay. Because, right, what my mom said, I think first was instead of stocks, buy real estate.
Yeah.
That's what we did. So we started looking for a house together as an investment, but also to live in. So we did that. This all did happen pretty fast. We're kind of like cruising, but
Yeah.
um,
Kind of cruising through the story, but I mean, there's so much more to it. Like we were starting to seriously date. And then a lot of people don't know this. Like if you're not from Rhode Island, a lot of people don't know that in 2010, we had these like crazy amounts of rain, like apocalyptic amount of rain, and almost the entire state flooded out, including my apartment that I was living in at the time when we were dating. So I woke up in the morning, stepped into like a foot of water, and it was like, holy shit. So I had to get out of there. And I think it was your dad at the time was like, oh, just move here. So I was working in Connecticut, moved in with you and your dad. And that's when we were like, oh, well, we had already started talking about looking for a house.
Yes.
So yeah, that's where that totally put like gasoline on that fire of looking for a house. So we ended up buying a house like a month later.
Yeah. We got engaged a week
after that.
After that, got married a year after that, had our daughter a year after that, son 2 years after that. But anyway, it's been go, 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 go. So we went from buying the house as our investment to it was actually once we had Alessandra, she was a newborn. We were in class to get our real estate licenses. And that was great because neither of us wanted a 9 to 5 corporate job, and the flexibility of real estate was really appealing.
Well, I had a quote unquote corporate job at the time. And it was, if anyone has ever seen like the opening scene to Office Space, that was my life. I hated it. Every little thing I did, like I was good at my job. I was really good at my job, but every little thing, like I had like 5 bosses, and if one thing went wrong, I heard about it from all 5 of them. And I wanted to bash my head against the wall almost every single day. I would come home annoyed. I would come home angry. I didn't like it. And it's kind of funny if anyone that knew me back then, or if you ever saw photos of me with long hair, I never had long hair, never wanted to grow long hair until one day I walked into a 5 a.m. sales meeting and my boss had a comment for me about like, oh, would you lose your razor? You didn't get a haircut today? And I was like, fuck you, pal. I'm never cutting my hair again. How about that? So I literally didn't cut my hair for like 2 years. And
when we got married, we had dueling buns.
Yeah.
On our wedding photo.
Yeah. But I worked for one of the largest companies in the world. And it was just like a very toxic work environment because I didn't get along that well with my bosses. And I was too good at my job for them to fire me. But I pissed everyone off around me so they wouldn't promote me. So I was sort of caught in this like corporate purgatory, and it was just sort of a miserable thing. So when, you were pregnant, you got pregnant, and then that's when we were like, all right, yeah, like life's about to change big time. I know I don't want to be doing this. I'm not going to be one of these like corporate guys with that like aspire to have, like the house with the picket fence. And I don't want this like Stepford wife type, Pleasantville life. I wanted something different, and you did too. We both did. But like we knew we didn't want to do that, so we started taking our real estate courses and talking to your parents and everything about reviving that company. And I mean, that's what we did. And actually, the story about that is pretty funny because we had a 4-month-old at home, and then within 1 week, we both found ourselves with a home, a mortgage, a 4-month-old baby, and no jobs. But we had a real estate license.
We had our real estate licenses. And really, when you're in a position like that, it was, in hindsight, great because we had no choice but to bust our asses. And
we went straight into survival mode of just like I was like a mediocre student when I was growing up. I was an athlete when I was growing up. I played a lot of sports and everything. I played sports in college, but I never like applied myself to school or sports the way like in that moment of desperation. It was like, holy shit, we need to make money. We need to make it fast. And then we kind of found like we were good at it. So we're like, all right, well, actually, hey, this works. This is like better than what I was hoping for. So we just I think we were kind of going in like 4th gear, and then we kind of just figured out how to put it in 5th gear. And from there, everything is kind of like stemmed from that. I think honestly, like going through that process of having a baby and a mortgage and newlyweds and
mind you, we were 27 years old, 26 years old at this time.
Yeah. But I think like that desperation of like figuring out how to put yourself into that drive, into that gear was something that we probably would not have. Like, I don't know if we ever would have figured out if we had not been in that moment. Figured out how to up our level of production, or figured out how to get into that mindset of like go mode desperation if we hadn't been forced into that.
Right. No, it really was like the best case scenario. And much like we talk to people that are like just getting into business, whether it's the real estate business or things like that, the best way I've always said of learning is doing.
Yeah.
Which is where college courses and
fake it till you make it.
Fake it while you make it. Yeah. But so that's what we did. And I think it was, like I said, the best case scenario because it was like what's the word? It fast forwarded us to where we wanted to be. So anyway, so that
we also like on top of all of that, on top of all the situation, like I was just saying, like the like newborn, mortgage, new lights, on top of all that, we took what little money we had and threw it all at the new real estate business. Like we literally threw our wallet over the fence and was like, it's all or nothing. So.
And I think that was also indicative of just, I guess people in business, especially entrepreneurs, you got to take risks. And we were both very willing to.
Yeah.
And I mean, thank God we were both on the same page, but we were both in the frame of mind where, all right, hey, I guess this is what we're doing. We're doing it. And then I feel like we still kind of operate like that.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's a good thing and keeps us trying new ventures and,
Well, I think a lot of people, if you don't do that, it's hard to buy into something 100%. Like emotionally or even like mentally, it's hard to get yourself into that scope of focus if you're like dipping your toes in the water type stuff. It's like, hey, I kind of want to try to do this. Well, I kind of want to try this new business thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do it. So many people fail. Like, well,
just do it.
If you get into it that way, you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
Like you have to be like in almost anything you do. Like if you want to start anything, you want to do anything, you want to start a new business, you want to do whatever, you want to do a podcast. Like you got to go all in. You have to do it. Because if you don't, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
What do I say? I go big or stay home.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true. I mean.
But most of the time you go big while staying home.
Yeah, that's true. Well, this is great. We have an in-home podcast studio. What's better than that? But all right. So that brings us, into our real estate life. We've been in the business of real estate for, over 12 years now. Mm-hmm. And we're no longer doing the same kind of real estate jobs we were at the time. We're not so much the agents that are running out doing the home showings, but you, Ryan, you're really like operations manager and a broker of the company. So that's where you shine. And I handle like the marketing and branding, and that's my area of expertise. But since then, we have also moved into the luxury travel space, as people say, the space, right? Mm-hmm. And because that's
it's all part of the journey.
It's all part of the journey on the space and mindset. Abundance.
Luxury travel is part of my journey.
It is. Luxury travel is definitely part of my journey. So that's something that we do a lot. We travel. I've always traveled. As a kid growing up, my parents took my brother and I all over the place. At the time, we kind of hated it because we just wanted to be home and doing what our friends were doing, which was not going to Italy when they were 3 or 6 or whatever. But now I'm so grateful that they did drag us around. So we've been dragging our kids around for the last 12 years or however many years. And it's just something that we all enjoy. And it's one of the other great things about being an entrepreneur, owning your own business. You have the flexibility to do that, to travel much more than the average person, especially in the States where they get like 2 weeks a year of vacation time.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly depends on what your business is, but almost any business, especially nowadays, like even though like we know friends that own like landscaping businesses, and if they build their business outright, like they can find time to be way more of a free sort of, like you want to go down to get into like a sunny place for a couple weeks, you can do it.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean about just entrepreneurs in general. So we're going to have a lot of entrepreneurs join us, by the way, on our podcast as guests. But back to traveling. So where did we end up with that? Well, we still travel. We travel a lot. And we have a book club that is also, so the podcast is On the Edge. Our real estate companies, Edge Realty International, and our book club by Edge Escapes. It's a book club for luxury travelers. So we've been putting a lot of focus on that also over the last couple of years. And it's a subscription membership, but it's really great because we connect with other travelers, other travel and book lovers. And it's nice to just kind of be leaning into the things that we genuinely love to do.
Yeah. And the book club, you started that when everyone was stranded in lockdown.
Yeah.
During 2020.
Good point.
Because what was the whole thing? Like, we couldn't travel. So you were like, I'll develop a space where people can travel through books. And that's really, I mean, you started doing sort of like live podcast in a way, right?
Yeah.
Doing like, meeting with book authors and making certain dishes based on
The
the
location of the
location of the
book.
book, which
Yep.
you still do now. But
Mm-hmm.
that was all during 2020.
Yeah, 2020,
COVID.
when COVID hit. Not Rhode Island accents, COVID. But yeah, 2020 was what gave me the idea because we were, in this routine of traveling regularly and suddenly nobody could go anywhere. So I think, maybe we were making dinner or something. I was going through cookbooks and I found some cookbooks from Italy and, just the photos of the dishes as well as, the scenic images of, being there in Italy. It was like, well, we can kind of travel through books and through cookbooks and through food and all these other ways where we can kind of keep the travel vibes alive from home. So yeah, 2020 is really what.
It didn't work. Everyone was still fucking crazy.
Well, nobody, everyone was still crazy. It was nice though, and it is still nice. Like even when we're not traveling now, we're reading books that take place here and there and kind of exploring the areas more. But it's a nice way to just keep the travel vibes alive.
Yeah, and it's been another fun project to work on, doing the book club as well as, now starting the podcast. And we still put a lot of focus into our real estate business and everything. And, again, it's all sort of trying to build these different businesses and everything that collectively, even though we seem to get busier and busier, we still are doing it in a way that we have built these businesses and platforms in a manner of still having our personal freedom and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we have 2 kids and they're also homeschooled. So we're all living a bit unconventionally, but it's really great. And it gives us, like I said before, the flexibility and just ways to live life on our terms, live life on the edge.
But I mean, I always go back and clarify when we say we homeschool our kids.
Yeah.
Like Juliana and I we don't stand in front of the blackboard at home and like actually like our kids have a teacher. They just Zoom with her every day and, they get their homework just like every other kid. And then, they do after school programs at our local school. And they do art programs through the Newport Art Museum, which is awesome. They have like an online Italian tutor. It's more of a buffet style learning program.
Yeah, I like when you say that. It's really curated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a buffet school.
It is.
Okay. Take a little bit here and there and everything. And if you really want to dive into like we did like a deep dive into like your average kid, like your average elementary student, how much time during a 6-hour school day do they actually spend learning and retaining information is a very low amount of percentage of that time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if they spend an hour one-on-one with their Zoom teacher, they're getting probably more out of it than most children are able to if you're in a class with like 25
competing
kids.
with other kids for attention. Yeah.
So, but anyway,
yeah. So our day-to-day life it's not, what Ryan said earlier he didn't want when he was working for corporate America. It's not the 9 to 5 or even like 6 to 9 or whatever, these crazy schedules people have are. There's really a big focus on family, togetherness, and just like milking life for everything that it's worth. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to do a podcast as well, because we're so curious and we love meeting other people that have these kinds of stories or aspirations, even just people that think outside the box or think creatively and really want to forge their own path. And it's just so interesting to see the different ways that people do this, whether they're a chef or a comedian, or we've got some other guests coming up. We have a well-known doctor who has some great information and research on food, diet, and, anti-cancer and things like that. So it's just all these walks of life, but everyone is very entrepreneurial and so interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. And that's kind of like the target, is to have guests that are not only interesting, but can be interesting to anybody. Not only like, oh, you're just interesting because you're also interested, but like these things can apply to anybody, any walk of life. Entrepreneurial stuff, I mean, it's becoming much more and more common to people have a side hustle and all these things. But like,
or Kathy Heller, she might be a guest. She had her
Wink.
her book and her podcast. What is it? Don't keep your day job. Like you were saying, like a side hustle. Now the side hustles are turning into their.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I years ago when I started watching, following like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, I mean, that was his whole thing was like, you can't complain about not having money, then sit on your ass and watch football all day on a Sunday. Like, get out there and find a way to make money. There's so many ways to make money out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very interesting. And I think one of the most difficult things most people have is just finding a way to get yourself mentally in that space where that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'll openly talk about how it's, sometimes you get into a mental rut and you have to figure out a way to get yourself out of it or figure out a way to communicate it so someone can help you get out of it. But
instead of just slamming the refrigerator door closed so your whole family
that never
thinks it's going to break.
That never happens.
Not you.
No.
Yeah, everyone goes through that though. But, that's another thing, how, just mental health in general, people are talking about so much more openly and freely now.
Yeah.
Would love to get someone on the podcast that can, shed some light there as well. So we have a lot of interesting stuff coming up. Very excited to be here. Every time now, since we started our podcast, I walk around the house singing, "So you want to start a podcast?"
You just wanted to sing.
I do want to sing, but that's what goes through my head, even if I don't say it out loud. So yes, all good things, all good things. Real quick, what else? Oh, working together. So you got a bit of our history, how we met. You got the fast forwarded version of how we ended up here today. But working together.
That's got to be like one of the most common questions you and I ever get is like, oh my God, what's it like working with your husband? What's it like working with your wife or your partner or whatever? And I mean, both of us have the same answer. It's like work is the easiest part of our relationship.
Yeah, I love it. It's so funny. It's hard for me to imagine. There's people that have completely different lives from their spouse for like 12 hours a day or whatever it is. We're just obviously very entwined, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it.
No. I think obviously a lot of it is just because all of the businesses and everything like that, like it works well. Like we're fine because even though we're business partners on a lot of stuff, like we both of us have the same goal. Like we're moving in the same direction. Yes. And just like any other business partner you're going to have disagreements on how things happen and everything. But I mean, honestly, from a relationship standpoint, work is the easiest thing. I mean, we bicker just like any other married couple, who did the dishes. And
that's what I say. Like with work, it doesn't really involve our love languages. So that's probably one of the reasons we have no issues with it. I mean, it's easy. And again, it is. It's because we have the same goals, just the same kind of ideas. We share the enthusiasm, of all the projects that we work on, which is, I think, half the battle, if not more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it wouldn't work if one of us would get all excited about like starting a business and the other one would be like, "Oh, again." Oh.
Well, I think there's that factor, and people can look at it two ways. Obviously, like there's the more, people that are always looking for more because they're never satiated or whatever people say. Again, I'm going to throw the name Kathy Heller. We just talked to her. You guys are going to hear a great podcast with her coming up. So Kathy Heller was, talking about how people that always want more, sometimes they have to find that happiness and that groundedness within. We've all heard that. But you and I, it's good that we both want to continually, evolve and get better and just have new, fun, wonderful experiences for ourselves and our family and our friends and all that good stuff. There's not like a complacency. With either of us.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it as far as complacency, because like, I mean, both of us before, like I think we took a stab at trying to do that stuff, and just like, as far as like,
at what stuff?
Like a normal 9-to-5 job and everything. And just like,
granted, we were 23 years old, but
no, for sure. But I mean, I also like, I can't imagine a world where I would go back and have multiple bosses and do all that. Like, I can't imagine a world where I put myself into that position again.
But that's why you don't. There are some people, on the other side of the coin, I know people who are like, I just want to be told what to do.
I get that. It'd be so much easier.
And that's the thing too. I think a lot of people also think being your own boss, it means you do have all the freedom that I talked about, but by the same token, it's not like you're working any less. So there is that.
Yeah, but that's a tale as old as time. Talk about, oh, you started a business because you thought you'd have more freedom. Ha ha! What a fool! Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. But I also like, no one wants to hear that fucking joke.
I'm just saying because there are, like you agreed, there are people that would much rather have their set schedule, have their set salary, and at the end of the day, they know what time they're eating dinner, they know what time they're going to bed. Everything's very predictable. So it's a personality type. There's a difference, and that's why you do what you do, I do what I do, and other people, might look at that
Yeah,
and say,
the irony of that is there's like a certain freedom of living that life too.
Of
Yeah.
course, I agree. I can understand. But it doesn't appeal to me
Yeah.
personally. But again, there's people that
It
look
doesn't
at
appeal to you personally because you couldn't get up and go to Sorrento for 3 weeks if you wanted to. That's why.
so
I'm not. I'm just saying, like, of course, because
that's not the only reason, but that's a big one. I do love Sorrento.
Yeah.
But again, people look at us and they're like, I would never want to be on the phone that much. I would never, want to be working at 10 o'clock at night when I'm sitting on the couch and just want to relax. I mean, so there's ups and downs, but we're going to hear from a lot of different people and hear their experiences and perspectives. And I think it's going to be very insightful.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be cool. So we're happy to be here. Ryan, I just had one really important question for you before we wrap up. First of all, when did you know that you wanted to own businesses?
I don't know that I ever had a moment where I was always like, yeah, I want to be a business owner. Like I want to do that now. But I think like I never grew up thinking about I want to be a business owner. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. Like that was my thing. Like even when I got to college and was playing sports in college and stuff, like that was like it wasn't till like after college, like after like I had an injury, so I couldn't play anymore. But it wasn't until after that I was like, oh, there's like all these other cool things that I could do. Like, and that's when I taught myself how to play guitar and everything. And it was always one of those things like I thought about doing when I was younger, but I never had the time to do it or like that much of an interest. And I think like honestly, like once I was out of college, I don't think I ever really thought about being a business owner until we already owned a business, until we already were in real estate and started a brokerage from scratch.
You found yourself in that role.
Yeah, and I'm like not even then, like because at that point it was like you and me and your dad, and then like your brother joined and everything, but it's still like it was the four of us, and I don't really think like I think it was when we started having people that wanted to come and work with us that I kind of fell into more of the managerial role and like the day-to-day operations and everything, that it came more natural to me. Like when I was a kid and everything and I was growing up and playing sports and everything, like I was the captain of the like baseball team and the football team and stuff. Like I always sort of like gravitated towards more of like a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where like with our businesses and stuff, especially with real estate, that's where I find like more of like when I feel like I'm being the most helpful and the most useful to other people, when I'm like managing and coaching and helping people out and helping people figure out like dynamic situations and working through problems and everything. Like I enjoy that part of it. Like, and that's the part of it that comes really natural to me. So like, even like with your book club and everything, like I'm not, if anybody follows your book club and from the people that join your book club, like they're not going to see me a whole lot.
That's because you don't read books. That's not true. He reads books. He just doesn't read romantic fiction books that take place on the Isle of Capri.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. But I like, and it's sort of became the same way with the real estate is, I kind of jokingly started calling myself like, I'm like Oz. I'm the man behind the curtain, pulling on all the levers and buttons and everything, making everything happen. Like I feel more at peace. Like I feel like that. I don't know what the new age way of saying this
in flow.
Yeah.
You feel in
that's
flow.
where I'm in flows.
Yes.
When I'm like being useful to the other people in our businesses. And like when I'm helping you come up with some new ideas with the book club or building out the podcast and everything has been very fun for me. When it's more of like you're building something,
you're a visionary.
You're building like the pieces of the business and everything. I find that way more enjoyable for me than, not to say, I mean, I loved being a realtor. I love being a realtor. I love, helping people. The best part about that is going out and finding new relationships and connecting with people and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever had this one thing. I was never like a kid, drawing the sign to, Wilson Company or whatever. Like I never had like this huge ambition to own a business until probably we had already been like 2 years into owning one.
Mm-hmm.
So
oh, you faked it while you made it. That's really funny. So that was just a fluff question. So my real question was, when did you realize the first time that you loved me?
Oh God. And that's a wrap, people. All right. No, I mean,
no, you don't have to answer it. I was just being funny. But actually I do. If you have an answer, I'd love to know before.
Probably after we were already married, but I'm joking. I'm just playing off the last answer. I don't know. I mean, you and I kind of hit it off pretty well right away, and probably has something to do with that little break in between of sort of like getting out of relationships and, jumping right into another one and be like, Jesus Christ, I just got out of one. I'm going to be like full into another relationship right away. Like pump the brakes, back up a little bit. And then we just got to start it up right again. So
the good news is we also have, thank you, Ryan. I love you. We also have a relationship coach and love expert coming on. So that's going to be very exciting.
Oh, that should be fun.
For people to know.
Is that going to be like a setup and tell me all the things I do wrong?
Oh, it's not. And we're going to have questions from our single friends and all this jazz. But anyway, thank you for joining us. We are so excited to have this new podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to On the Edge with Ryan and Juliana. And thank you, Ryan.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.
And that wraps up this episode of On the Edge with Ryan and Juliana.
Thank you so much for listening. And please be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform.
We'll see you next time.